So I'm delighted now that we begin our theme of progressing together with Derek Stewart, who's a very experienced patient advocate, as you'll gather, and also, crucially, very much has been a friend to the ACORN, that is PPI in Galway, and has been really tremendous in supporting us over the last few years. Derek is a former teacher who became actively involved with health research following treatment for throat cancer. He helped establish patient involvement in the UK National Cancer Research Institute, and is a passionate advocate for PPI in Galway through both the Clinical Trials Network and Ignite Galway. So over to you, Derek. Thank you very much.
Good morning. No, right. Yeah, okay, we'll do that again. I'll say good morning, and then you'll all say good morning back, okay? So, good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. See, once you've lost your voice to cancer, you realise just how important it is. So while you've still got a voice, use it. And if there was one lesson from my experience, was very much that where you sort of think, should I say something? Just do, right? So, I'm going to be talking about sustaining patient and public involvement, talking about getting the balance right. We're talking what we mean by that sustainability. What is it? Is it more of the same, or should we be thinking differently? And in it, I'm going to be critical of some of the ways we do patient and public involvement, but also, hopefully, I'll give some ideas. If you're into Twitter, we had a workshop yesterday, and that was the hashtag for it, and there's some interesting discussions. Because actually, I think we do a lot where we come in to meet patients, but in laboratory stuff, there's less. But you're going to hear more from Emma Doris immediately afterwards, talking about precisely that topic. So, I didn't get my lesson on this. So, Derek Stewart, a Scot, living in England, visiting Ireland. If Brexit continues, I might be looking for relatives, right? Okay? I'm here to learn. As Andrew says, I've been supportive of the work here. I'm supportive of it because I think you're doing it better than in some areas, right? Because your thinking is different. So if we just look at this line, the purpose of PPI Ignite, generally in Ireland and Galway, is to bring about a cultural change. And I've just added that reminder at the bottom, that's about influencing ideas, customs, social behaviours. So that's social behaviours and the behaviours and ideas of researchers, but equally it's about the behaviours of people. And we'll hear very much from Carolyn Jenkins at the end of today about how we can make a difference to people's lives. And in between, we'll hear about other patient advocates and how we're doing that. But actually, if you go to England, and this is the point where, when you realise it's being videoed, I'd better be careful. But actually, they won't mind because they know I'm critical. If you look at the Involve website, which gives us advice, its role is to give advice on how we involve patients, not about the purpose. And that's one of the difficulties in England. So we have lots of patient and public involvement, but actually what's it there to do? And I think sometimes we do it as a process, let's have more involvement, rather than what difference can it make. And it wasn't until the publication of Going the Extra Mile that we actually said it's about improving health. So actually, you're ahead of the curve. So what's involvement about? I think sometimes it's about taking somebody out, but fundamentally, it's about us realising that we should be listening to somebody who's affected by or had an illness on an ongoing way. It's the fact that they can give us, so people like me, Kelly who's here and others, we can provide insights, we can provide knowledge, we can provide experience, information, right? We can provide it currently. Now, you wouldn't come to me after 24 years to know what it was like to have head and neck cancer. It's years ago. I couldn't tell you what it's like today, right? I could actually, but that's a different story. But actually, you might want to, because you might be looking patients who've lived long with an illness. That's different, but that's a different question. What we don't tend to do is go, how could we work together to look at the future? What's it going to be like in 5 years, 10 years? And that's the bit. And in it, often we focus on the person affected. We also need to include their carers, families and friends. They are providers of insight. And when we do involvement, it's not just a one-way, because you look at this patient information leaflet. It's about, is it relevant? Is it understandable? Is it suitable, possible, appropriate? We sometimes use those words together, but actually they're each separate and different. Relevance is about, actually, is this something that you would see us doing, right? Would it help you in the future? Do you understand what it is I'm talking about when I do the research? I don't want to know it's got a fancy name and it has got a 3-armed randomised control trial. Who cares? What's it going to do and what difference is it going to make? Is it suitable? Does it fit with my lifestyle? Or does it mean extra burden that I have to go back and forward to the hospital? Those are the things that are important. Is it something that's possible? Right? Is it a trial that could be done? Or is it one where, when I heard recently, you could go to it in Newcastle, sign up, but you had to go once a week to London? Really? Yeah? And is it appropriate? Is it the right thing we're doing? The group which I'll talk about, the End Global Health Network, they have a lovely phrase. It's not just about better research, it's better research for better health. And I think sometimes it's just seen as about the research. So what involvement can become is we take the community, whether it's a geographic one or whether it's a patient community, we bring somebody out and we say to them, come with me through this darkened door and actually into research land. And then we say to them, actually, do you know what? We use all this strange language. Could you help us to understand this? At worst, you get people like me who actually really understand what some of that language is about. And that's not what we're there to do, right? The danger is that what we then get are people who might be interested. People like me. And I mean that like me, white and slightly older and kind of interested in how committees work and things. And what we do is we then assimilate. We become like the researchers. And that's not what it's about. So I found this lovely phrase called liminal space. I used to say, I'm neither fish nor fowl. I'm not a patient and I'm not a researcher. And now I've discovered I'm in liminal space. It's this time between what was and next, that period of transition, threshold. What's interesting is it's also described as where transformation takes place. And what they describe it in this website, and there's quite a few people talking about this, it's where we learn to wait and let it form us. I don't want to wait. I want to get there now. Because if we work together, hand in hand, then actually we can help with that transformation of research, but transformation of people's health, which is what we're doing here. Michelle Obama, if you haven't read the book, it's fantastic. So it starts as her becoming Michelle Robinson, about life, about being young, female, black, and then achieving and going to university in Princeton and Harvard, and how often she was often a rare black person in the room. She met Barack Obama, and he took her out into the community, and he was out there and he was talking about how we empower people to get those opportunities. But he was asking a more fundamental question. He was saying, how do we make it better for all? And some of the problem with patient involvement is we get it better for breast cancer patients who get involved. And it's okay if you're a white woman who's in that network and finds out and advocates. But if you're Asian, black, from a poor community, and you don't have that voice, and you don't get the voice heard, interesting work in Denmark at the University of South. Good to see you today, right? They've been doing some work which asks questions about how do we help people who don't have a voice? How do we help people who don't know they can have a voice? And how do we help them have that voice to make a difference? Morgan's Hoarder and people like that you might have come across, right, at the Danish Sprout. So that's that one. So I think what we're trying to do is bring research land, get our patient reps, and say to us, actually, once you've come in and you've understand a little bit, how could you help us? It's through a door into daylight to shine a light on research and to actually make it more patient-centred, open, transparent. Exactly what the President just said a minute ago. And I think that's where this university, the work that's going on with PPI Ignite, excites me tremendously. And I'm here more to listen and learn than tell you. I'm just making observations. That last word, I wrote about this in an article, which is on my Twitter things. Making research active is about where, when we go into a hospital, there's a sign that says, we do research, because it's what makes the difference to patients. It encourages patients to say, can I take part in a study? Says to them, actually, we're delivering best evidence-based care here, because that's what matters. And actually, you can take part and get involved. So, you're doing great stuff here. I never know whether I'm saying this. I'm saying it because I believe it. But there's part of me says, invite me back because I love Galway. Right? So I just thought I'd be open and transparent about it. You've got a START program. If any of you don't know about START, fantastic. The opportunity for young people in schools to get involved, go on the website, hear these youngsters explaining about research, doing their own studies. You're about to do another one called the People's Research. Have I got that right, Anne? The People's Trial, thank you. And I can't find anywhere on the website, but I thought I'd mention it. Then you've got something called Evidence Synthesis Ireland. That group led by Declan, who's somewhere kicking up there, they've got a journalist helping them to actually talk about what is evidence synthesis. It's not a snappy title, but actually it's what could really matter. Because if we choose different trials and we find out what they're telling us, then actually we all benefit from it. And researchers benefit as well. And the priority study, I'll come to that later. So from usual suspects to advisors. Sometimes I think what we do is we bring these people in, we become the PPI, and we give the person the answer. So somebody says, can you look at this study? And we go, do this, do that, do that. I'm saying to the patient reps that are here, stop doing that. It's a bit like teacher. You come to a teacher and go, what's 4 plus 4? Teacher doesn't say 8. Teacher says, well, how do you think you might find that out? How could I show you with some things? And I think our patient reps who are involved after a little while have to move to being advisors because they've got extra knowledge. They've grown in that knowledge. And of course, they can then reflect on the knowledge of involvement. I spend most of my time at meetings, and I'm not talking about the research. I'm talking, do you know somebody's doing that in Newcastle? Do you know somebody's doing that in London? Somebody goes, are they? Because you as researchers are so busy often that you don't get to look up and look out. So it's a consultancy role. If I had a good time, I'd have changed that to knowledge exchange after your talk yesterday. But they're knowledge brokers, they're community activists. So how do we do that change? I missed the slide. It was a quote from Heads, I'm sorry. Should have left it there. It was, education's about lighting the fire, not filling the bucket. And I think sometimes we get filled, the bucket gets filled with our knowledge of research. So how do we help people learn? First of all, thanks very much for getting involved, right? It's great to see you here, as it was said earlier. acknowledge individuals, help them realise the skills they're developing. If you don't know asking thinking questions, it's what we do when we get involved. We go, what? What's that about? How does it? So we just build our level of understanding. Then we start to comprehend. Then we start to analyse. And then we start to work together. Just put it in a website, asking things. But we also need honest feedback about whether our input was valuable. And then we can actually learn. But it's also the opportunity to say to us, how could you help us go out into the community? Could you come with us? Because if we come with you, it sort of helps to validate in the community. We become a sort of leader of the community, and we're respected in those communities. And helps capture the experiences, because I think we don't reflect often enough on it. Priority study is an example of, hi Patricia, right, thought I'd get it in. Yeah. These are James Lind of Alliance priority setting partnerships. Whole idea is, what are the questions we don't know, the unanswered questions? We bring a group of researchers in who tell us that they know everything, right, sometimes. And then you get a group of patients who ask lots of questions. And then we bring them together and say, what are the questions we still need to look? And we prioritise them. So a group of patients, I was the first person with the group, and the one started here. And then there was one at Aberdeen looking at recruitment and retention. We weren't there to be the patients. The patients would be heard from at the priority setting partnerships. Our there was as advisors. So we were there to advocate about involving them, grounding the studies in reality, right? Advising on how to involve, connecting with our networks and promoting those studies. So we got developed a clear remit as we went on with those. Just a little example of some works I should talk about Nottinghamware, as they are currently giving me an income, right? So what I did was I developed a strategy which wasn't about more involvement. It was about actually how do we engage communities? How do we take respiratory out into the community and talk to the community about it, rather than waiting till they come to hospital to talk about research. We want to do involvement only where it's going to have impact. And then we want to use it in an inquiry method where we're learning from it. We're asking questions. So we're not going, we're going to do patient involvement. We're asking a question, what would the patient voice, experience, or presence make a difference to our work? What will work, what won't work, rather than just, let's bring a couple of people onto a committee. So I've come to a conclusion with this inquiry-based, and I'm playing with this still, that fundamentally it's about mutual learning. Inquiry is about asking after a person. I'm as interested in that you as researchers are looking after yourselves, because your health and well-being is equally important, right? But actually, I'm asking that actually you ask after my health, because that's what this is about. I think we ask about issues that matter to both of us. But you might be asking about, well, what do patients think about this? And I may be saying, well, what's the latest research? It's not a one-way process. And then the third one is, it's asking for help in certain areas. The danger is that involvement is it just covers that last one. If it's not about the first two, then we fail, because it's a relationship. It's a great reason for dialogue, right? So, two last things for a final slide, I think. Just to learn from the past and the present. If you haven't read How to Survive the Plague by David France, it's the history of patient involvement in HIV in America. It's a sobering read. Bad behaviour by scientists, bad behaviour by researchers. But at the heart of it, researchers didn't know, Scientists didn't know, and neither did patients. And they came together and coalesced. In London, a number of people, Janet Derbyshire, saw Nick Partridge outside with a placard and said, "Nick, why don't you come in and help us?" And actually we had better outcomes here in the media and things because of that relationship. Interestingly, the Global Research Network, this is partly funded by the Gates Foundation that Declan and I were at a meeting. It's really interesting because they're in South America looking at Zika virus. And of course the same thing as HIV. We don't know the answers. Scientists don't know the answers. But what they're saying is actually, fundamentally, when we do research, it's not good enough to just do the science. These are young mums faced with babies who are going to have a lifetime of care. So how do we do that? It's all-round research. They can't just go in and help us with this. And what's interesting is those feisty women are saying, "Don't you dare do that to us. We want to know." And they've come up with this simple set of questions, which when we're writing up what we do, what did we ask? What did we learn? What do we still not know? And what would we recommend? That's what we need to do in research, in lay language. I don't want to always read the huge lay report, thank you. And then, finally, they also look at, ultimately, I don't want to just help you research. I want to translate into care. I wanted a difference to my life. And what they're doing is research teams have to find directly ways feeding back to communities, their healthcare providers, and the policymakers who fund it. We can't just be doing research that sits on a table. And again, back to the president, sounds like that's what you want to do. So finally, it's that balance between how do we add value to research, but how can we learn more about our health? So, I think it's about good food, good health. If you haven't been to the misunderstood heron food truck, which is out at Killary Bay, right? Thank you. But also, if you haven't walked the 5K along Salt Hill and kicked the stones at the end, because we ultimately want to keep healthy. And finally, it's about good company. Thank you very much.